Hi again, everybody. It's Dave. Last week, I tried hitting thrift stores for the first time in quite some time and explained somewhat of the difficulty of that because of my health situation. And it was, you could tell using a camera for the first time in thrift stores, trying to get around on a cane, it wasn't the best combination. Um, that's my most recent video if you want to go back and watch that. But there's one more place nearby that does have vinyl. There's a couple places I'm not sure about, so I'm going to try to hit those again and take a camera along and try to get some video of it, and hopefully do a lot better this time. I still have not found any vinyl at all, and no Elvis at all, vinyl or CDs at any thrift stores I've been to in my entire life searching for it. I keep hearing about these great finds that people have at thrift stores and vintage stores. I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to film it again, and hopefully you can come along with me. Do me a favor and hit subscribe as I'm back trying to do videos. Um, Prior to the last one, I hadn't done one since Christmas. I know I lost several subscribers through that time, I understand, but I'm back trying to do some now. So do me a favor and hit subscribe and hit like, and let's see what we find this time. The first stop is a thrift store that I've never been to. This is pretty good size. It used to be an antique mall and it's just recently reopened as a thrift store, and it's supposed to have a lot of vinyl and a lot of media, so we'll see what it has. Well, there were lots of loose 45s like these. Many of them really dirty or moldy, and some of them cracked. And there were a lot of bins like this that you see that I'm laying these 45s on, a lot of bins, 10 or 12 of them, and most of them were filled with classical music, and then most of the rest, probably majority of that, most of the rest country. Now, not classic country like Johnny Cash or Charlie Pride, but classical multi-record albums and then some country. They did have a lot of 8-tracks, which I thought were cool, but they were all opened. I was looking for some possibly sealed ones or boxes and didn't see any of those. And here is the first Elvis LP I have ever seen in a thrift store, the first one ever. Of course, it's the Pickwick Christmas. It did have partial shrink, and I would have actually probably gotten it if it was either sealed or had the original price tag. I like the original price tags on the shrink, but it didn't have. It did not have that, and it was open, and the shrink was about to fall off. It looked like so. The first time I finally found an Elvis LP at a thrift shop, I had to pass on it. But now we go up the road to a pretty large antique mall. I haven't been in here in quite some time, probably 6 or 7 years. I started going in here, started visiting here in probably the mid 1990s, and I have purchased Elvis stuff in here before. I'm going to keep my eye open for a small pinback button from 1956. I saw it a few times in here and never bought it, Not real sure why. I guess something I wasn't collecting at the time, but I'd like to get something from 1956 besides vinyl, and so much of that is really expensive now. There's a couple Elvis records, so I'm going to keep my eye open on for that pinback button, but it's been quite some time since I saw it in here. Here's something really interesting to me. Blue Ribbon Foods was a company in Peoria, Illinois, where I was born and grew up, that made all kinds of things. And this is probably, I mean, it's definitely the largest Blue Ribbon collection I have ever seen. These are really so cool looking. Very expensive though, which is not a surprise because it's pretty rare to find them at all, let alone this many of them. One other thing from Peoria that I'll show before this video is over that I got at this
Here are a
same
couple things I
antique
found.
mall. Not really my taste in Elvis, but a couple different things to look at here. And finally found a crate to dig through, but really poor shape. Kind of surprised at how poor shape the stuff I found. Now here's Elvis's one of his favorite quartets, the Statesman, and that was one thing I thought about purchasing, but it didn't have the group that I prefer with them at the time. Here's Henry and Hazel Slaughter. Henry Slaughter was the original pianist for the Imperials, and Elvis fans, he is on the 1966 How Great Thou Art recordings. He did the piano work for that entire recording, plus some of the secular songs recorded that day, or in that session.
Yeah, it's not very tall, but yeah, it does have a longer neck with a little round at the bottom. Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell her when she comes back around. Okay, great, thanks. It's been so-so. I mean, there's been a little bit of time where it's been busy and then a little slow, but it's fairly good now.
Here's Dave Rowland. He was a baritone singer for the Stamps Quartet in the mid-'70s before crossing over to country, singing in a country trio called Dave and Sugar. There's Groucho, but this is all pretty much country stuff from the 70s that I'm running into today. Here are some really rough-looking Elvis 45s. No sleeve and labels pretty much torn and dirty. And then there was, here's one more thing I want to show you. Here's a bunch of 78s. See how they're put together? That's why LPs eventually became called albums, because they look like old photo albums. And I don't know if you saw who that was at the front. Here it is. That's Freddie Martin, who was the orchestra conductor during Elvis's first time in Las Vegas in 1956. But all these 45s are pretty much shot. Look at that. Oh, well. These were in better shape. Here's quite a few Elvis 7-inch I'll have to check to see if there's any vinyl I need to go with empty picture sleeves, and then probably come back here to see if they match. Seriously thought about this one. I do want to get an original Heartbreak Hotel. However, the label wasn't real great, doesn't have the original sleeve, and also no silver lines, so I went ahead and passed on it. This is the coolest thing I think I saw all day. I wouldn't mind adding this to the collection, but outside of my price range. Well, they were serious. I offered $398,999, and they said no. This is the item that I was referring to before from Peoria, that I had with Peoria Connection, that I had purchased at that mall, a Clyde Beatty circus poster. And if you are unfamiliar with Clyde Beatty, he was very popular in the 40s and 50s. He even had his own TV show and did a couple of movies. So I think it's pretty cool. But the main thing is, this is another thing from my hometown of Peoria, and I tracked down the history of the circus, and I believe this is from 1958. And the cool thing about this is my dad told me that he used to go with other kids in the neighborhood, because he grew up real close to here, to that spot on Antoinette and Ligonier Street. You can see that right there where the circus would set up. And he said the kids would help set up in exchange for a ticket to the circus. And this was a big open space at that time. But now there is a high school there and a baseball field. And coming full circle, it was at this exact spot where I used to coach middle school baseball, at a diamond right where the circus was set up. And this is a poster from that time, I believe in the late 1950s, I believe 1958.